Happy Sunday, Tampa Bay. We're here on the Duncan Duo Show like we are every week to talk about the Tampa Bay real estate market here on 970 WFLA. When we aren't on air, make sure to follow all of our socials. We're at the Duncan Duo. Just about every single social media website, and that's our domain name as well, theduncanduo.com. So I want to start off the show with just a quick discussion about Hurricane Florence, and obviously prayers to all the people that were impacted along the East Coast. And but I also want to use it as an opportunity for everyone out there listening, to use it, I think, as a point of caution and as a reminder of some things you might need to shore up at your home. First and foremost among those is insurance, and making sure you're properly insured, making sure you have flood insurance, and then obviously making sure to turn my phone off so that it doesn't make noises. That's the third time. I know every week I end up, and I'm like the pro at this, and I forget to. So.
You're human.
I know, but nonetheless, so we a year ago we had Irma that impacted our area pretty considerably, and I think a lot of people were unprepared for it or maybe underestimated it. And now we've got a storm on the East Coast, and it's a great opportunity to use this as a talking point to give people advice about what to do. And so, I want to start off and just say, for our customers, people that have their home on the market or people that are buying a home, it's going to cause some obstacles. For people selling their home, if we get hit with a hurricane, in some instances we might have to remove signage for a short period of time. You're going to have a lack of showings for a period of time. You're going to have a little lull in demand depending on how much it hits. And for the buyers, you're going to run into delays. You're going to have challenges with insurance. You're going to have mortgage companies wanting to have a home re-inspected.
I was going to say re-inspect, yes.
I think that's something you guys see. You're going to have, inability to get flood insurance and homeowners insurance for periods of time while storms are out there. So you're going to deal with some hassles whenever there's a storm out there, even if it's not projected to hit us. If it's a storm out in the ocean, there's the gridlock can occur in real estate if you didn't do the insurance stuff early in the game. You can have some delays. So Mike, that's something on the mortgage side. That even though this storm did not hit us, it's still very likely going to have some lenders and insurance delays because of it.
Yeah, and I actually spoke with an insurance company a little earlier this week, and he now includes me when insurance companies shut down. So we kind of got lucky on this one, or we have so far. It looks like there's a couple others brewing out there that may come later, but they have, and I don't even know the mileage, but once the storm gets within a certain distance of the coast, yeah, they call it the cone, then they just completely stop writing insurance. And there were even a couple that stopped writing on this one, even though it doesn't look like we're going to have any effect from it, but some of them did shut down. One thing that I haven't even thought about in the past, and I don't know that we really dealt with this last year, but up in the Carolinas right now, there's a lot of title companies and courthouses, for instance, more so courthouses that are closing. Mm-hmm. If you can't record, you can't really fund your loans, so that's causing some delays too.
Well, I think Aaron, on the title front, obviously that's something that if we get hit with a storm of Irma again or comparable to Florence, those are obviously delays that can happen in real estate closings.
Yeah, and this was such an eye opener, and we're so used to being in Florida, so the rest of the nation's usually calling us saying, right, you guys going to be okay?
Right.
Come on up, and here I am calling my buddies up in the Carolinas saying,
same here.
Come down, bring your business down, fly some of your operational staff down to have internet access to continue doing transactions, because quite frankly the rest of the world doesn't always care.
And not only that, but you're right. I mean, so you've got people up there that even though new sales may lull to a stop, they've got existing sales that they've got to figure out what's going on with them, and the power outages and internet outages and all those types of things.
The backlog that occurred, last year with Irma, the backlog that occurred, it's just stuff that you don't consider until you go through it. So not only do you have lack of writing insurance in the cone, you have a rate lock. Maybe you're up against a rate lock, and now you've got to extend that rate lock. And then maybe by chance we're running tight on the deadline, and we're now looking to order a survey. but the surveyors can't go out because it's pouring rain.
Right.
Because they have delicate equipment. So it's all these things that could stack up in backlog, and then not to mention then it's the tree damage and the homes and everything else, the rain, the water, the lack of showings, insurance companies wanting re-inspections, some of lenders wanting reappraisal, just to go out and do a quick checkup to make sure that there's not a tree laying on the roof.
And I think a lot of them are, prepared and now dealing with, significant business loss. Friends of ours in Louisiana, they went, it was gridlock. It was months and months of no sales, no income. They were more or less out of business for a while because of the storms. And, certainly we have a lot of friends. I have Buddy Blake is a friend of mine in Wilmington, North Carolina. He runs a big REMAX outfit. We've got Marty Hampton in Raleigh. We've got Charleston, Jeff Cook, and Matt O'Neill are friends of ours that are big agents there. So we know some people in that area that run substantially sized, but similar businesses to ours. And again, reaching out to them to help them. But I think it needs to be a wake up call for people too to verify their insurance. Do you or do you not have flood insurance?
Mm-hmm. Right.
What is your deductible? Make sure that cross off all your T's and dot your insurance I's and make sure you're protected now. In Florida, because once those storms start forming again, then it turns into gridlock on the insurance front. Everyone calls insurance companies as soon as there's a storm out there, freaking out. But guess what? It's too late. You can't get it.
Well, just looking at those policies too, like not the secondary dwelling, but the additional, the sheds, the carports, the attached. Those types of things. They're not made to code to withstand 150 mile an hour winds, so your little shed could get decimated. But maybe that was appraised into the transaction.
Right.
So
we're building a house right now. So first thing I said to Angela is, hey, look, let's use this as a reminder. Let's make sure, we don't own the bill. We're still going through the process. It's not completed yet, but can we make sure we know what happens if a big one comes through right now? So interestingly enough, I think that the important part of the insurance side of it, it's a good wake-up call, it's a good reminder, but those are things that, especially if you're not in a flood zone, flood insurance to add on is relatively inexpensive. We talked about it a lot. It's if you're above a certain elevation, it's a few $100s a year for flood insurance. So Reece from Rent It Network is with us as well. I don't think I even properly introduced you guys. Aaron Davis,
Aaron.
Strategic Title, Mike Yates, Atlantic Bay Mortgage. Reece, I'm gonna forget your last name. Reece. Register. That's
it was almost
Cash Register.
There we go.
That's how I gotta remember. That's his middle name. Reece Cash Register with Reddit Network. So Reece, the obviously it's a challenge for you guys too. If a storm hits, you've now got a lot of tenants and homeowners who have properties that you've got, especially some of the ones out of state. You guys could probably have to assist in checking. What are things that you maybe advise a landlord or an investor that has properties placed with you guys to do, in the days leading up to a storm hitting?
So, for us, the maintenance is a huge issue, so making sure you're taking care of all those deferred maintenance, exterior, landscaping, even roof, things like that, so that when the storm does come through, you're not scrambling to get that, because everybody in the business is going to be asking for the same thing. So on the front side, getting the maintenance, and then making sure, on the back side after the storm passes, your property management company's going out, taking pictures of the home, making sure the tenant's in a safe environment, and having that bandwidth, being an out-of-state investor, to have a company that can go out and look at the home and has enough people to go to all the properties that they service so that they can keep the tenants in there.
That's one of the things that you think about in terms of, someone weighing, especially someone not local, weighing the pros and cons of hiring a property manager. That in and of itself right there is pretty powerful, because what if they don't know anyone, then they're calling their uncle who's an hour away, and there's storms, there's trees down, they can't get through, and, that's one of the obviously value propositions for anyone out there that owns property away from their residence or is looking to rent out a property and move away. Logically, that kind of feet on the ground, so to speak, to be able to check out a house and make sure everything's okay after a storm like this hits.
Right, especially, we're just over a year from Irma hitting our area last year, and putting our team together and going to each individual property that we manage after the storm to assess any damage, and then having those relationships with vendors also after the storm to
be able to turn stuff around more quickly.
Exactly.
Because you do give them a lot of business, they're going to make sure to prioritize. Yeah,
absolutely.
That it's interesting, because I was sitting there thinking, probably a couple of weeks ago, I was like, man, it's been kind of quiet on the hurricane front, and now all of a sudden, this hits, and I think I forget every year that the hurricane season really it goes until November. You know, I mean, it's you know, this is probably the peak time of year, but it goes a few months. So, I mean, we've still got a good bit of time, but you know, we're using this as an opportunity to kind of put our, you know, remind ourselves of our plan. Where do we go if something happens? You know, what do we do in terms of food and water, and going to stock up on all of those things now before everyone's running to Walmart and Publix in a frenzy.
Well, I know a lot of us from a business perspective. I mean, we were putting together and documenting like, okay, this is going to happen again, so let's document what it is we need to do. So homeowners should be doing the same, right? Document what it is they need to do, and it's not just because oftentimes we as Floridians especially, we're just like, oh, that's another hurricane.
It's not gonna hit us. We have this mentality.
I got a gallon of water and I'll fill up the tub. You know, we're good to go. But it's like, no. I mean, hey, what happens if you don't have power for a week? What happens if you're, you know, have you taken in all the potted plants? You know, that's a big thing. Yeah. Uncle Bob may drive by and go, yep, rental looks good. Right. And but there's potted plants all over the place. Well, those are flying missiles in 150 mile an hour winds.
You know, and the other one, and you know, I'd love to have some new construction builders on the show to talk about this, because that was probably one of the most alarming things to me in the last hurricane was so many photos I saw on social media, and then things on my own street where builders are building houses and they've got dumpsters in front of homes with stuff in them, and they've not secured them. And I mean, fortunately we got lucky, but I took a bunch of photos within a 1 mile radius around my house of homes that were under construction that they had roof tiles stacked up in the driveway, not secure. I mean, there was so much stuff out there. It's like, look, that is a liability nightmare. So that's one thing I think home builders really need to get it together with the next time, because there were some prominent builders and some large-scale tract builders that I saw photos of communities where there's just, I mean, those are just projectiles. Those are you know, potential weapons if a storm hits. And so hopefully they've learned from that. But that's one of the things, you know, Angela and I talked about, having homes that we're renovating and flipping. Hey, let's make sure we've got all this tied up. Let's make sure there's no materials sitting outside. The houses are secured. All that kind of stuff. So. Yeah.
We saw quick story. We saw one of those that everyone thought they were doing the right thing. They're bringing all the building material inside the house. It was a 2-story house, and they actually stacked a lot of the block on the second story. On the floor.
That probably wasn't very smart.
The rain crashed through the inside of it. So all this block, I mean, it just smothered the inside of this house.
That was a dumb moment. That was a mean waiting to happen. So, well, anyway, we're going to continue this conversation. We're going to talk more about the Tampa Bay real estate market. We're going to give you some updates on our featured properties and be back here on the Duncan Duo Show on 970 WFLA.